Fart, man. And a one, and a two, and a one, two, three. Welcome to the Sabby and Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am one of your hosts, James Fauntleroy. So good to see you all. Welcome, my sister, Sabby Sabs.
What's going on, Jaybe?
Good to see you. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good, Jaybe. Doing good.
All right. Yeah, it's been an eventful week, I have to say. You know, some interesting twists and turns and some butthurt feelings and all that, but we're all here and we're all accounted for. So it's good to see all of you guys with us this Thursday evening. The Sabby and Jaybe show is every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you have your show this evening at 8 p.m., correct?
That's right.
All right. So you can tune in to Sabby Sabs in about 3 hours or so. But for now, we got you here with us. And so if you guys would like to see me, you guys can also see me on Tuesdays at 2 for my channel and here again on RBN on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern for the Jaybe show. If you guys have not already, you guys can also give a like. This really does help us out. It pushes us out so that we can actually get more views. The why we want more views is because we can inform and activate more people in order to really change the system. That's what this whole thing's about, so that we can do this as well as inspire people to get on the ground and do more work in organizing. It's just really the inspiration work. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you guys have you joined our mailing list? Go ahead and go to revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever we go live, upload clips, okay? So do you guys get that? Instead of always having to go through the YouTube, you guys can get it straight into your email and go, oh, well, in 20 minutes, Sabby and Jaybe are going to go live, and this is what they're talking about. See? It's very easy. And then if you guys would like to, you guys can also go and give us an email. If you guys have any stories, you guys have any encouraging words, anything like that, you guys can actually go to revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So you guys have that there. Now, one thing that we're going to do is we're going to get into just a couple of hellos, and then we'll get into our couple of news stories. Yeah, you guys got a twofer today. Not just one story, you guys got two. All right. All right. So we have Kirion coming in saying, two can make the light shine through. It takes two, baby. It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it outside. I want to rock right now. I'm Rob Mason. I came to get down. I'm not internationally known, but I'm known about the microphone. Don't get me. I'm showing my age. Oh,
I was muted the whole time. I'm
sorry.
Yeah,
you were muted. Sabby say, keep it cute or keep it mute.
Hey, that's on my workout playlist, that song.
That's part of mine too.
Yeah. I want to rock right now.
All right. John H. coming in saying, giving us love. Good to see you. CBC voter saying happy Thursday at Nick Cruz. Wait, Nick's in the chat? I didn't see it.
Oh.
Is he?
Maybe. Let me see.
All right. Chrissy says the dynamic duo is live. Wonder Twins activate. Eric T. Red back from vacation. All right. Good to see you, Eric. Eric says, what's up? All right. Glad to have you. DC says, hey, Sabby, it would be cool if you would unmute me from participating in your channel's live chat.
Unmute you? You're not muted. What are you talking about?
Randy says, hello, JB and Sabby. Good to see you as well. All right. Wait, Diddy the Goat. What the name is going on here? He says we need to make love more often, and not with that name. You might want to change the name in the picture, but
Who is that?
I don't know. I don't know. Jay says, "Chill, Diddy."
Oh my God.
What in the hell is happening today?
No, people do it sometimes.
Yep. Vincent Davis says, "Plague and white people spread from Ukraine 5,000 years ago." What's that have to do with? Okay. All
That's
right.
right.
I don't know what that's about. Lauren coming in and saying, "I appreciate you both for educating me and us. I voted green yesterday. People hate me even more. Yay!" But I left the duopoly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Kyo Grigor says, "Sabby and Jaybe show." Good to see you, Kyo Grigor. I haven't seen you in a while. Nice to have you back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Maybe he was on I'm sorry. Maybe they were on vacation. You never know.
Mispronounce it. I always mispronounce it. I don't know if it's Igori's, Egregory's. I don't know.
Please correct us in the chat so that we know exactly how to say it.
I
Appreciate
think I'm
it.
mispronouncing it.
Yep. Alexis Anderson says, "Talk about age. I remember when that song came out. I was in high school. See, you were in high school during the hype time. That was the good times right there."
Yeah.
All right. David Nathan says, "Rob Bass and DJ Easy rock. Hit it." I can't even make that sound. But yeah. David Martin coming in saying, "Hi, good to see you." Teddy G says, "I really like Sabrina's new setup." Me too, right? It's fire setup.
Thank you, Teddy. My sister did this.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. I don't have those skills. I'm telling you that right now.
Mm-hmm. Here comes Roger with the jokes. Roger says, "R.I.P. DJ." Oh, he died? I didn't know that.
Oh no, I didn't know either.
Roger's in the know with everything. He's always in the loop. He's always like, "Hey, did you guys know this?" I'm like, "No, I didn't."
Roger, I didn't know that. I missed that somehow. Now I'm curious. I want to kind of look things up a little bit.
Is Rob Bass still alive? I hope so. DJ Easy Rock, but the Lumberjack Twins are back. I almost thought about wearing my flannel shirt, but it doesn't.
Hey, we only did it one time, Jaybe. We both had it.
It's like a classic now. It's crazy.
I love flannel.
Yeah. Flannel is actually very comfortable when it gets cooler out. Another person I haven't heard from in a while. Purple Philosophy. Good to see you. Did he definitely be showing the
Damn.
Did he be showing love, crazy love?
Oh my God. We're so silly. We're silly, Jaybe.
Let's get on with the show. I need to get serious. I need to grow up. Look, I'm 40 years old acting like this. Good Lord, what in the world? Anywho, what are we talking about tonight? We're going to be doing two subjects. It's going to be very interesting. We're going to be discussing the Democrats are getting desperate out here in these streets. We're going to be talking about the quote-unquote endorsement. But first, I want to get into this. This is going to be very important. A lot of people ain't talking about it. I think it is important for us to talk about what people who are on Social Security are going through. Social Security and social insecurity. We're going to be talking about that. Saps. As far as wages are concerned in this country, I'm not sure if you have it up, but I should have brought it up earlier. But the National Low Income Housing Coalition, they put out a release, basically showing how much everybody across the nation in each state, how much they have to make according to how much they would have to make according to the average rent in the area. And according to that, a lot of people have to make far and away above the minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment within this country. Here in Florida, I know that you have to make at least $35 an hour in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in this country. I forgot what it was in Massachusetts. It might be something close to 40.
I think so.
Yeah. And so there was a video that was put out just recently, and this gentleman, he decided to update everybody on the differences that will be happening in the year of our Lord 2024. Sorry, 2025. Sorry. I want to give a shout out to a particular viewer for sharing this, because this came on my radar. I want to give a shout out to Notori Lee for this one, because she's the one that originally shared this that caught my attention. Notori says 10 big changes to Social Security in 2025. And yes, this includes retirement, disability, which is also SSDI, survivor, spousal, and SSI beneficiaries. And so I just want to give her a shout out because, a lot of people don't talk about Social Security very much. And I think this is very important. One of the reasons why I think it's so important is because if you're not receiving it now, you will receive it in the future.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll live to see it. Or your family members will receive it. Or you also have family members that aren't receiving it right now in some way, shape, or form. So that being said, I just want to get into this video. So I just wanted to make sure I get to all right. And let me share the screen. All right. So he has 10 big changes to Social Security, SSDI, SSI that were just released.
Friends on social media so they can understand what is going on here with Social Security, as these are a ton of changes and they all go into effect as of January 2025. Thanks again. Truly appreciate your support, and let's talk through the list. All right, so I'm going to run through this list here. I will give you a brief synopsis and description of what each of these are, and I can certainly come back in future videos to break these all down in further detail. There's a ton of information here. Get ready, okay? This pertains to all beneficiaries across the board. All right, number one, the obvious and easy one, which is the COLA, 2.5%. You already know that. I'm not going to spend any more time on it, but that goes into effect as of January 2025. Number two,
first of all, let's stop there. COLA, COLA, COLA is cost of living adjustment, right? So those of us who are on Social Security retirement or Social Security disability, like myself, all right, so I can speak from this with authority. This happens every year. You find out in October of this year what it will be. For us, it's 2.5%, right? So your income increased by 2.5% to adjust with inflation. The cost of living increase is wholly inadequate because of what people already earn on Social Security retirement, and especially Social Security disability and supplemental security income. And because of this, I don't know how particularly this amount is determined, but this is why so many of us continue to suffer in this country, because these cost of living increases do not really truly increase that pertains to our cost of living.
Right.
Sabby, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just, I know one particular profession where they do it, I guess, as best as possible, and that's the military. because the way it works, like with military personnel, for example, if you get, let's say, you choose your top 3 places where you want to live. This is how they used to do it. I don't know, but you pick your top places where you want to go. And so let's say the army or whatever decides, okay, we're going to give you your second pick. Cause like, you don't always get your first pick. In fact, a lot of times you don't, but let's say we're going to give you your second pick, which is, what do you call it? New York. So New York State. And you were already located in South Carolina. Well, now when you move to New York, you will get that COLA. You'll get that cost of living adjustment for New York because the cost of living in New York is higher than it is in South Carolina. The exception to this rule that I've heard so far, particularly from a friend of mine that used to be in the Coast Guard, she said was DC. She said for whatever reason, that DC metropolitan area, she said the COLA there is not well adjusted, but other places that she's been, she said it was. So I think the only exception that I know where they do it pretty well is the military, but you shouldn't have to be a part of the military in order to get the correct COLA.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's like one of the questions I was asked by Notori, and this was a really good question. She's like, if these cost of living increases are only going up by this much, how are they surviving? We're not. That's the only answer I can give you. Like, for instance, if you guys go to my Twitter page, you guys see a GoFundMe. That's there for a reason. Because ultimately, what they give us is wholly inadequate. And a lot of times we focus a lot on the workers, but we also forget that some disabled people are workers. It's true, but some do not work. And the problem is that they are also suffering. But the thing is, they're not heard as much because they're not listened to as much. And so I think that when it comes to the disabled people in this country, the people with disabilities, we need to keep our ears more towards them. Because a lot of times when we say that, we would like to have a better income, like for instance, what I call a living income, we're thrown by the wayside. And even then, and back in 2020, I think Bernie Sanders wanted to increase everyone's Social Security disability. Well, pretty much everybody's Social Security. I think it was by like $200 per month in a year, which sounds nice, but it's still wholly inadequate, even what Bernie wanted to do.
Right. Because I think a lot of people may not realize, and you brought up the disability part, which is incredibly important. Not everyone that is on disability is not allowed to work. So like, for example, my dad is on disability, but my dad was still allowed to work. But some people who are disabled are not allowed to work. And so if you are like on disability and you are allowed to work, then you do have more money coming in than those who, and even then you can be limited, right? Like if you're disabled and you are allowed to work, there may be certain jobs that you cannot do. Like, for example, if a job requires that you must be able to lift 25 pounds. And I've applied for jobs like that before, where you have to be able to lift 25 pounds in order to do the job. Well, if your disability prevents you from doing any type of heavy lifting, then you can't get that job, or you can't, apply for that job. So I don't want people to assume that if someone is disabled and they are able to work, that means that they can just do any job that requires you to do some type of heavy lifting, for example, or requires you to do any type of physical work. If that would affect your disability, then that means that job would not be doable for you. So even those that can work, they're limited with what they can do.
Well, I can actually speak to this because I have what's called a hero graft that's in my arm. That's my dialysis access. My doctors tell me that I cannot lift more than 10 pounds with this hand. Yep. Meaning that if I were to consistently lift 10 pounds with this hand, I can ruin my access to my lifeline that keeps me alive. So I would have to reject jobs that require me lifting more than 10 pounds.
And there's
That's
a lot
just
of
how it
jobs.
is.
And there's a
It's
lot
not
of
that
jobs.
I can't do it. I can. It's just I'm risking my lifeline to do it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of jobs that require you to lift something. Like, for example, even when I waited tables, you got to be able to lift more than 10 pounds. Like, it just because you have to carry the trays, like you have to run food. You can't just go to a table and take their order. Like you still have to be able to do hot food runs and things like that. You also have to be able to open and close the restaurant. That requires lifting. And I think it's just something people now work. If you work in retail, you have to lift, especially on shipment day, because you have to unload the boxes and get the products out on the floor. I remember all of this stuff. So I'm trying to think of how many jobs where you can't. I mean, even when I was academic advisor, I had to lift because I had to lift the boxes of the orientation supplies, like the folders and the binders and all that stuff, and prepare those for the students. Like I still have to lift things. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there aren't as many jobs as you guys may think where you may not have to do any type of lifting.
Definitely, definitely. I'm also going to be getting some other stats as far as disability as well as concerned, but I want to move on this video. And we might not be able to cover everything due to the sake of time, but I do want to cover most of it. So let's continue.
Earnings test. Okay. So I'm going to break this down by retirement for those people who have filed for their benefit prior to their full retirement age and not going to be achieving their full retirement age in the calendar year of 2025. So this is group number 2, or point number 2 that I wanted to talk about. Okay. So this is Social Security retirement beneficiaries who have filed for the benefit before full retirement age and not achieving FRA, full retirement age, in 2025. Your earnings limit is going up by a little bit, up to $23,400 or $1,950 per month is what it comes out to. Now, that's the new earnings limit. So if you want income aside from your monthly benefit, you can absolutely get some income, but that's the limitation. Okay. If you earn over that, which you absolutely can, you will then have a garnishment to your benefit of $1 for every $2 that you earn over the limit. Okay. So just take that into consideration. All right. Now,
so basically, what does this mean? So if you are retiring early and collecting Social Security, and you still want to work about $1,900, you can earn from working, but every single dollar over that amount, for every $2, they're taking $1 away from your benefits.
Yeah. And I'll say too, but Jaybe, this is why some people, and it's sad that people have to do this, but this is why some people will work until they're 70. I know one of my former coworkers, she did that. We were like, are you going to retire, that kind of thing? And she said, no, I'm going to wait until I turn 70 so I can get more Social Security. It's crazy when you think about it, that you would have to do that, but that's what you have to, because the thing is, guys, like, once you retire, you're on a fixed income. And just because you're on a fixed income doesn't mean that everything around you doesn't increase.
Nope. Trust and believe. I know that. So, yeah. And so, and then on top of it, it's like, well, if you earn beyond a certain amount, then they start to take some of your benefits away. And it's just like, I still need it. And the crazy part is, a lot of people don't know this. If you're on Social Security disability, well, he'll talk about that in a second. I'll get into the earnings limit for that, but it's worse than Social Security retirement. I'll just put it that way. Let's continue.
Number 3 is Social Security retirement beneficiaries who will be achieving FRA, full retirement age, in the calendar year of 2025. Okay. Your earnings limit is also going up significantly here. It's going up to $62,160 for the months leading up to the time in which you achieve your full retirement age in 2025. Okay. So if you're going to be achieving FRA in 2025, that's the limitation. That's how much you can earn up to in the months leading up to your FRA timeframe. Okay. Now, I want to point this out really quickly. If you earn over that limitation, you certainly can, but you're also going to have a reduction in your benefit. They will reduce your benefits by $1 for every $3 that you earn over that limit. Okay.
So this is a little bit different. So those people who have full retirement, right? They reach the full retirement age, for Social Security. They get to their earnings limit is definitely a little bit higher. And also, if they decide to work, their earnings limit for every dollar they go over, instead of it being every $1 taken away for $2, it's $1 taken away for $3. So it's kind of less of a penalty, right? Which still, it's like, I'll put it this way: if you have to work after retiring, then that means that retirement is not enough. And how can you call it retirement if you're not getting enough to retire? You're muted.
Sorry. A number of people have to do that. A number of people have to work after they retire. This is why, like, I noticed this too. There's a lady that works at the gas station that I usually go to. Older lady. She's got to be at least, I would say, she's got to be at least like in her 70s. Standing on her feet, working behind the register. And if you've never been cashier, and I've had cashier jobs, like standing on your feet in one spot can be very tiresome. It is also hard on your back. And I just think to myself, I'm like, why does this lady have to work? And it just like it's sad. And it's not just her. There's another cashier that works at that gas station that also has got to be at least like late 60s, early 70s, working, standing on their feet. Like, people think they're just doing this just for fun. No, because they have to. You can notice the same thing when you go to Walmart. You go to like a super Walmart and you see the greeters at the door. They're usually older people that are retired, right? And you think they're just like, oh, let me just go stand at Walmart. It's like, no, because people need the money. And then everyone, we're all complaining about the grocery store prices, right? Mm-hmm. Think about how that affects someone that's on a fixed income.
I'm telling you. And the thing is, and here's the funny part. As somebody that is on Social Security disability, you guys want to know how much I get in SNAP food benefits? I'll tell you right now, I get around $50 a month. You heard that right, 50. So how does that help me eat when you need to spend between $250 to $300 just for one person?
So first of all, I'll tell people this. I would say let's go back to pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, I was doing the grocery shopping, right? So I would go to the grocery store and buy enough for the month. And like, okay, it's time to go grocery shopping. Let's get the food for the month, right? I used to be able to spend about maybe a little under 200 for food for two people for the whole month. Mm-hmm. Fast forward even before 2023, I would say 2021, I noticed all of a sudden it went from just under 200 to like 230, then 250, then like almost $300. And I don't even know what it would be today because I don't shop for the month anymore. Like now I go to the grocery store and I pick up things like once a week. I'll go there and get a couple of items and I just do it that way. But it's just continued to increase. So for someone like Jaybe, if you're getting $50, I mean, what would you do with it? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what someone would do with $50 for groceries today.
Back in my day, I'm starting to sound for my age.
Back in my day, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Back in the last millennium, in the 90s, like $100 would get you, if you bought name brand in the 90s, $100 would get you a full cart. Food would fall off the sides. That's how full your cart was. You go to a Winn-Dixie, a Food Lion, a Publix, an Albertsons, you could get almost 2 carts worth of food. Not 2 carts, maybe a cart and a third worth of food with $100.
This is
All
true.
name brand. Yeah.
This is true. Because I always went to the grocery store with my parents when they went grocery shopping because I get to pick out the cereal. That was my thing. Like, you go to the grocery store, you get to pick out the cereal. So I always went grocery shopping with my parents. And yeah, they used to have a cart full. And I don't ever remember them paying that. Like, it's really crazy when you think about it. Someone was asking me, they were like, you know how much milk costs? No, I don't. I haven't drank milk in years. How much does it cost? I'm curious. Because I remember a gallon of milk used to be like one of the cheaper things that you could get.
I just saw this. I was looking at prices. Did you know a pound of Land O'Lakes butter is $8? A pound of butter?
Oh my God. That's also not something I buy often. So I bought butter, but it wasn't recently. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't Land O'Lakes. I'm pretty sure it wasn't name brand.
And the part that sucks is that Land O'Lakes is actually a co-op. That's one of the reasons why I would buy from them. Yeah, Land O'Lakes is actually a co-op. Just like Ocean Spray. Yeah.
I knew about Ocean Spray. I didn't know about Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes me wonder.
Yeah, but but even still, I mean, that's what, grinds my gears about it. But anyways, let's continue. Oh man.
Now that's retirement. Now, a little bonus category here is if you go into 2025 already at your full retirement age, no earnings limit. Anything. You can earn as much as you want, as little as you want, no limitations whatsoever. It's a little bonus for.
So people like, my mom, if she wanted to go back to work, if she could go back to work, there's a lot of older people who maybe they retired, they got into the retirement, let's say 3-4 years ago. Now they're having their full retirement. Then they basically have no limits on how much they can make. So they can make $1 million this year and they're good. So.
For you right there, okay? All right, now category number 4 here is SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance Beneficiaries, not to be mistaken with SSI. More on SSI in just a minute here, okay? But I'm going to talk about your earnings limits as well, which is for 2025. There's 2 different categories here, blind and non-blind. Let's talk about non-blind, okay? The non-blind category for SSDI has an earnings limit of $1,620 a month for your gross income as a non-blind SSDI beneficiary in 2025. And no, that number does not include your monthly benefit. That is earned income that you can have without your benefits being garnished or sacrificed, okay?
Now, first of all, what does that mean? That means that I can only earn around $1,600 a month, period. And he said, without it being sacrificed. What does that mean? Any penny that you make over that amount that he just quoted, you lose the entire Social Security disability. Entire. If you're working and you earn more than that. So there's no, for every dollar you get over. See, that's the mistake that I made back in 2019, and then they completely took it away from me.
So Jaybe, what happens if you get a bonus? Like, how sometimes bosses, like some companies, I know when I worked at NHC, they used to give out, and they stopped this, but they used to give out a bonus to everybody around the holidays. It wasn't a lot of money, but I'm just saying, like, they would give people like $100 or $200. I forget. I think it was based on seniority. What happens if you get a bonus? Does that count towards that too?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
So then you can't really work a job where you get commission.
Which was what I was doing at the time.
Wow.
Which means that I actually had to pull back on actually doing sales. Because if I sold too much, then I would get in trouble.
Then you can't wait tables either.
No. See, that's the thing. And it limits you. And so it's just, and the problem is, there's more that he gets into it. But this is why I talk about how what those of us who are disabled, and he's talking about the non-blind like myself, the blind, they actually get a little bit more, but it's still wholly inadequate. And this, you have to pay. I mean, what the average rent in Orlando is what, around $1,700, right? And people who are on Social Security disability get on average around between $1,200 and $1,400. So you literally have the rent that is higher than your benefit amount. We're not counting electricity, food, transportation, medical bills. We're not counting any of that. You're already underwater just with your benefits.
This is one of the reasons why I know a while back, Maryland did this, because my grandmother was telling me about this, where they made it to that like it was illegal for the city to turn off your heat, because what was happening is that you had like elderly people that were getting Social Security and that was their only income. And then they would get like a high, gas bill because of the heat, and they wouldn't be able to pay it or fully pay it. And the electric company, the gas company would turn the heat off. And what was happening is that older people were dying because of that. Because reality is like you can die like if you don't have efficient heating and that kind of stuff. And so they had changed the rules in Maryland to where like you cannot turn off their heat. And honestly, thinking about it, Jaybe, you just brought up like utilities. When it comes to heating and cooling, I mean, you're in Florida. We all know Florida's hot and humid. I don't think in Florida they should be able to turn off your air conditioning. Just like I would say the same thing for Texas. I don't think they should be able to do that in Texas either, because it's a health risk. That's just kind of how I feel about it.
No. And in fact, you shouldn't, but see, here's how they get around it. There are programs like LIHEAP. LIHEAP is low income energy housing assistance, something. It's called LIHEAP. And the thing is that it's utility assistance for if you can't pay it. But here's the issue. You're only allowed to apply twice a year. You can apply for the spring and the fall, or the summer and the winter. You can only apply those 2 times. If you have already applied those 2 times, you can't apply anymore. And so then what if you got it and then they paid that month, but then you didn't make enough, or a tragedy happened and then you couldn't pay the next month?
Right.
You're stuck.
And then they charge you. And then the other thing too, if depending on the state or city, because every place is different, then they'll charge you a fee to have a technician to come out to turn it back on. That's another thing too. So then you have to pay the fee for them to turn it back on. And then you have to pay what you owe. And then you still have to have money to pay what you're supposed to pay this coming month. And this is how, and to people who say like, how do people get themselves in these situations? This is how these things can snowball. Because if you were already behind, rent is a perfect example of this. If you're already behind, by the time you try to catch up, then the fees that are tacked on to that, you got to pay the fees. Then the next thing you know, it's time for you to pay rent again. That's how people, this is why a lot of people, are still like struggling or end up burdened with debt or whatever. All it takes for the average American is one unexpected expense that you have to take care of for whatever reason. For some people, it may be your car, because that's your only transportation to work. Not everybody lives in a city that has public transportation. It's just reality. I lived in parts of South Carolina that had no public transportation. So like you had to have a car. And it's hard. Once you get behind, it is very hard to get ahead.
Yep. In fact, I'm looking at here now. So LIHEAP, of course, it stands for Low Income Energy Assistance Program. So here it is for one household, one person in the house, The maximum annual income you can make in order to qualify is $27,735. If you're a household of two, the maximum household income you can make in order to qualify is $36,269. So you literally have to be making minimum wage in order to qualify.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. And a lot of people, may still think that, well, Florida is this cheap place that we can move to. From what I understand from friends that I know, like, Jaybe and other friends that I knew that moved to Florida, they say that's no longer the case. And it's because, and this is why I tell people the solution is not move to a different state. And I hate when I hear people say that, because what happens is, at least what happened in the Southeast, is that people use that as a solution. There was an influx of people that came from the Northeast that moved to the Southeast because people said, hey, the cost of living is cheaper. You can move from your New York City, leave New York City, move down south, and you can buy a house. And right, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, et cetera, Florida. But then over the years, and Jaybe, I'm sure you can attest to this, then over the years, because so many people came in, the demand increases. And when the demand increases, what's going to happen? They're going to increase the price, because now more people want it, and we may not have the supply for the demand of people, or to meet the demand of people. So this whole motto that you hear some people say, like, if it's too expensive where you live, just move somewhere else. There was an article written recently that was telling people in Boston, hey, Boston's expensive, move to Michigan. No, because then Michigan will become North Carolina. Michigan will become Georgia. Michigan will become Florida. So that's, people need to fix the cost of living all across the country. Like, people shouldn't have to leave their home, and hope that things will be better somewhere else, and leave everything that they know and hope that they can get a job where they're going to. It's crazy.
You know what I call that? Trans-state gentrification. Because when people from Michigan, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, when they decide, oh, it's too, or New York, when they decide, oh my God, it's too expensive, let's move to Florida, let's move to Georgia, let's move to South Carolina, guess what? You have an influx of people who move there, and then guess what? Everything starts going up. So then it starts to mirror all these northern states, right? And then now everybody's like, oh man, it's so expensive. Yeah, because y'all moved down here, and now it's popping. And everybody who's trying to make a buck, they're raising their prices because you're coming here. And it's not your fault that you're coming here, because you're moving here technically out of duress. The issue is that the cost of living is so high because of the profit-seeking motive in the capitalist system. This is why everybody wants to move to some place where it's cheaper. If everybody actually had the ability to live where they wanted to live without cost ever having to be an issue, we will actually be a lot more spread out. But it's not that way.
This is true, because I think that, this is what happened to Charlotte, North Carolina. This is what happened in Nashville, Tennessee. I have a friend that lives in that area, was living in Nashville, literally like a mile down the street from the downtown in Nashville. Had to move out, was able to buy a house years ago in Nashville. Can't afford to buy a house in Nashville today. Had to move out of Nashville and lives in a town, I think right outside of Nashville. It's very rural, to be able to get a house for her and her husband and her son. At that time, when she lived in Nashville, it was just her and her son. And, it was like, she'll tell you, it was a small house. So like, she didn't have pets or anything like that. It was just, what she could get at that point in time. And she was able to do that in Nashville on one income. So this is why I'm telling people I've seen the difference over the past 15 years. So this is why Raleigh, North Carolina is expensive now. Like, it's just, look what happened to California. California should be the litmus test, actually. Yeah. Like, look at what happened to California.
Yep, absolutely. Let's continue in this, because he brings out another point too as well. And then we can move on to our next story.
There you go. That's number 4. Number 5, SSDI. Again, we're talking about blind beneficiaries now, okay? So if you're a blind SSDI beneficiary, you also have earnings limitations on a monthly basis for your gross income of earned income, aside from your monthly benefit of $2,700. That is the new limitation for 2025, okay? Following all this, I know it's a lot of information so far. We're only halfway through. That's number 5. Okay. By the way, yes, I'm counting on my fingers as I go to make sure that I'm getting all the numbers and get all of the points that I wanted to point out for you. Okay. So we're on number 6. Okay. So I'm starting over 6. Okay. I'm literally counting on my fingers. Okay. Anyway. We're talking about SSI now, okay? Supplemental security income. If you're an SSI beneficiary and you are an individual right now in 2024, by the way, as I film this video in 2024, if you're watching the replay on this, all this information will be relevant through the entire year of 2025, okay? Just want to point that out for you. But anyway, your benefits will be going up because of the COLA up to a maximum for an individual of $967. That's the maximum.
Did you hear that? $967.
Yep.
Can you live off of $967 a month?
Nope. I don't know anywhere where you can live off $967 a month. And according to that Outer Reach report from the housing coalition that you were just talking about, there's nowhere in this country where you can live off that.
Nope. $967. That's crazy, right?
Not even in the boonies. And I'm trying to tell you guys, not even the boonies. There have been a number of, efforts to pay people to move people to rural places. Like Maine was doing this for a while. So was Vermont. Now I see Tulsa, Oklahoma is trying to pay people to move there and things like that. And it may sound all good and dandy, but what I'm telling you, like, once you start doing that, then other things come with that. Particularly they're seeking out younger people, right? So other things come along with that. A Whole Foods, the breweries, the spin cycle bars, like the juiceries. And when those things come in, then you know that gentrification is starting to take place there. And then the cost of living is going to increase for the people who grew up there. So no, it's just like I said, even in Maine, Vermont, you can't live off of $76 a month. That's crazy.
You can't even live in Wyoming for that much. Gives a whole new meaning to Brokeback Mountain, right?
Some benefit for an individual receiving SSI, $967. That's an increase of $24. $24 over 2024 numbers. Okay. That's an individual. Now, point number 7 is SSI. Yet again, we're talking about the maximum benefit for a married couple right now for 2024. Again, as I film this video right now, is $1,415 for a married couple receiving SSI. However, it will be increasing because of the COLA by $35 up to $1,450 is how much the new maximum benefit will be for a married couple receiving SSI. Got that? All right. So again, those numbers are just for SSI. All right. Now number 8. Okay. Counting my fingers still. Okay. Point number 8, maximum taxable earnings. Okay. This one, to be 100% fair with you, is only focused on high income people. This encompasses only about 6% of our population, by the way, just to put it into perspective here. Okay, but the maximum taxable earnings for 2024, it was $168,600. For 2025, it's going up by $7,500 up to $176,100. In other words,
so hang on, let me finish.
All income up to $176,100 in 2025 will now be taxable by Social Security. Any income above that is no longer taxable by Social Security, but is taxable by Medicare. Okay.
So, meaning if you are a high income earner, let's say you make $1 billion, only $176,100 of your income is taxed for Social Security. Any amount above that does not get taxed for Social Security at all. At all. meaning most, if not almost nearly all of the money that people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Harlan Crow, all these guys, they are paying dog shit when it comes to Social Security.
Yep. This is
So
part of
when
the exploitation. That's part of the exploitation with the billionaire class. I know Second Thought did a video about this where he talked about the 3 different ways how billionaires are able to be billionaires. And one of it is like what you were mentioning, like all the kickbacks that they get from the federal government. I mean, the fact that they're not really paying into Social Security is part of the reason why our Social Security benefits are trash.
Yeah. And it's sad because ultimately, it's like, if you were to tax them, let's say on the, up to $1 billion, and it wasn't just on income, it could also be on assets and all these other different things. Do you know how much more money would be available to people like myself who are either Social Security retirement, Social Security disability, or supplemental security income? Do you know how many people, much more money will be available to us to be able to actually survive in this system?
You would probably have a living wage.
A living income. And yet we don't tax them. So I'm going to share the rest because I'm not going to be able to play the rest of this because I want to make sure we get to our next subject. But this was actually very informative. And you need to know this information because even if you're not getting anything from Social Security right now, if you continue to live, you eventually will. Because either one or two things are going to happen. Either you're going to get old or you're going to get disabled or both.
If it's still around. If it's still around by the time they're old enough for Social Security, that's another thing.
That's also a big if.
And the federal government's been warning about that for quite some time. They said like there isn't enough money going into Social Security. And part of that is the reason that you mentioned, like the billionaires not really paying into it.
Yeah. And the ultra rich do not pay into it. And that's one of the biggest issues. This is why we talk about the capitalist system, because they're the ones who dictate to the politicians that, oh, we don't want this, so don't make us do it. And so then they put money in the politicians' pockets, and that's how it happens. So people can talk about, oh, man, that's cronyism. That's not capitalism. No, baby, that's capitalism, because they actually use the profits that are exploited from the rest of us in order to get that money and then puts a little bit of it inside the politicians' pockets to tell them how they want the government to work. And it's not through voting like the rest of us want it to be. It's through how the politicians are. This is why we talk about walking away from both parties, because both parties are bought and paid for by these same people who keep these levels as low as they possibly can. So then people like me and many other disabled people continuously suffer. You want to know why they want us to suffer? Because they want us to die. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because they consider us to be a burden on society. So therefore, it's like, you're not really worth it. We're just throwing a few bones out there because you're loved ones of some people, but we actually don't really care about you.
It's true. And there's something else I wanted to mention too that people need to be aware of is the fact of when we look to the Gen Z generation, and this is just a reality, the data shows this, Gen Z, they are not buying into 401ks. So regardless of the company that they work with, there's a 401k option, which is just another fancier word for retirement fund for your future. Mm-hmm. They are not signing up for 401ks, but I'm talking like largely not signing up for them. What that means, and let me explain why. Part of the reason why is because they can't afford it. Because when you sign up for a 401k, that's a certain portion that is going to come out of your paycheck. It's just a reality. So they are foregoing that. And what that means is that they're less likely to have any type of retirement fund. And then also we have to remember the days of working for like the telephone company for 20, 30 plus years and then getting a pension when you retire. Those days have been long gone. I don't know about you, Jaybe, but I was never offered any type of pension for any company that I worked for. Now, MIT did give a pension to people, but you had to already be grandfathered in. So by the time I started working there, that wasn't an option. So what you're going to see as we go forward is that as Gen Z, that generation gets older, you're going to see less and less people have any type of retirement fund. That's one thing that's going to be a problem. That's why when I say shit going to hit the fan, it's going to hit the fan. So there's that, because they just can't afford it. This is also part of the reason why you see them, not just Gen Z, but also millennials, more likely to what we call job hop, right? The reason why that is done is not necessarily because they don't like the job or the manager or the company. A lot of times it's done so that they can increase their pay, because the reality is, in order to get that increase that you should get, you have to change jobs. You got to go to another company, or you got to go to another position in another department at the company that you work at. This is why you're seeing more people. They'll have a position or a job for like 1 year or 2 years, and then they move on somewhere else. And they used to call it job hopping a couple years ago, but now that's just kind of become the norm, particularly for the younger generation, because they need the money. And that's their way of getting more money to be able to afford the cost of living that we have. And that includes those that are minimalists, by the way. This is just to pay the rent. And if you have student loan debt. So that's going to be an issue. They're not going to have retirement fund. And then you got the issue with Social Security. And like the federal government has been warning, we don't know if we'll have money for Social Security in the future. So what's going to happen to that generation?
Yep. Basically, I want to share this before we go, because I wanted people to know what is going on here as well. Here's the energy bill assistance here for Orange County, Florida. That's what I was talking about. To qualify number of people in the household, let's say it's you and your kid, right? Your spouse and your kid. You have to make a maximum of $44,803. That's the most you can make, right? 4 kids, let's say you're a single parent with 3 kids, $55,337. This is unsustainable. You cannot do this. And that is like, there are people who are making $60,000, $70,000 that need assistance, but they can't do it because they make too much. It's crazy.
I will be, I'm going to be giving a talk about this, about the cost of living in the United States at the Community Church of Boston at the end of October. Because I've been trying to sound the alarm to people about this, and I really want to break this down in a way that people can understand, because it's not just about that cost of living report, which that was a big red flag and a wake up call, I think, for a lot of people. But it's not just about that. It's the other things that we're talking about today. It's, what's going to happen for the future generation. It's, all of those things. And this is why, like, when politicians get angry, when we're like, what are you going to do for us? Like, as though like Dr. Shiva was upset because I was like, what are you going to do for us? You know what I mean? Which I've asked to every candidate. So the thing is, like, the reason people are asking these questions is because their needs are not being met. Mm-hmm. And if they're not being met right now, what is the guarantee that it'll be met in the future?
Yeah. And in fact, speaking of which, I wanted to go to this article too. This is part of what I want to highlight. This is out of the New York Times. This came out last year. It says, close to the line, why more seniors are living in poverty. It says benefits extended earlier in the pandemic have been rolled back, but many older Americans are not taking advantage of the aid still available. But here's the thing. A lot of us are living in poverty, right?
And they have to pay into, because that's the other thing, the healthcare expenses. Because remember, guys, Medicare doesn't cover everything, right? You still have your co-insurance that you have to pay for, the prescription drugs and everything. Remember, Medicare doesn't cover everything. And that is a misconception that some people have. So this is another thing too. Like, if you're a senior and you're living off of Social Security or your retirement, like both, and then you still have to deal with the high cost of groceries, you're still paying rent, or you're paying a mortgage or whatever. I mean, it's crazy, man. And this is why, like, people made fun of us, Jaybe. Remember us millennials? They made fun of us because they were saying that, like, this generation doesn't know how to stand on its own. Oh my God, these kids are coming back home from college and they're living back with their parents. And now, as time has gone on, now those same people are starting to see these people just can't make a living here. They just can't make a living. The cost of living is out of control. But when we were going through that, you remember, JB, when we were going through that, they said, I can't believe these kids are going to college and they're coming right back home to their parents and their parents are taking care of them.
Mm-hmm. I actually did a report earlier this year. I can't believe this year is almost over, but I did a report earlier this year of how elderly people, their homelessness rates are jumping up sharply. Sharply. Why is it that they are becoming more homeless? Because even though they saved money over the years, had planned for their retirement, inflation, also known as corporate price gouging, has went up so much that they couldn't even account for a price going up that much when it comes to the cost of living. So it went beyond what they were expecting. So let's say you have a retirement of $1 million by the time you're 55, 60 years old. Guess what? You're pouring through that money so fast that you're like, I got to go back to work, because if not, then we're not going to have anything.
And that's why you see more seniors working.
Yep. Competing with us and Gen Z and Gen X in order to have a position.
Yep. It's a reality, man. It's a reality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Also, there's this. We're going to talk about people with disabilities and poverty, right? So this is from Boise State University. Let me make sure this is big enough. Income and poverty. 21% of the population age 16 and older with disability that are below poverty level. 11% of the population age 16 and older without a disability are below the poverty level. 21%.
Yep. We've been telling people.
It's crazy.
We've been telling people. And then, a lot of people have medical debt. And that's another thing that'll hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And there is another article that talks about the increasing amount of people with disabilities that are also experiencing homelessness. So this is a huge issue. And I didn't even get to the rest of, the video. There's a lot more information there, but go ahead and take a look at it. I placed it in the chat for you guys. But yes, so check on your disabled loved ones, check on your disabled friends and family, because a lot of us are not okay. This is why
they may not always tell you. So
we don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Sabs. All right. So with that being said, go ahead and give a like to this stream. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're going to be getting into just a little bit of the chat. I checked to see if there was any Rumble rants. We don't have any as of yet. Due to the sake of time, I need to move on. But we do have tips on Rockfin I want to get to. So we'll get into that right now. And then we shall move on to the next one. I know that people are eager for the next one. I'm eager for it too, because we got to do some debunking here. All right. All right, thank you for the tips on Rockfin. Roger Meadows, he says, the amendments of 1983 passed by Reagan passed along a gradual increase to the full retirement age. Set at age 65 back in 1983, the full retirement age will cap at age 67 by 2022 for those born in 1960 or later. Charter a state public bank that creates a surplus in the state economy that can fund a state version of Social Security to close and even go above the gap between Social Security check and cost of living. This is not UBI because that applies universally. This is specifically for retirees. UBI can go towards those who were forced to work these gig jobs, which were created to get around labor law, where companies had to provide benefits like Social Security. Perfect citizen ballot initiative regarding Land O'Lakes. This is the reason why it's not enough to have a cooperative, which is only creating a sea full of corporate supply chains, but is important to have what is called a multi-stakeholder cooperative with all the co-ops of different types: worker, agricultural, consumer, financial, aka credit unions, and whatever else you can think of, all partner together, insulating themselves. So basically co-ops, basically doing business or business to business cooperatives. Also runs, I'm sorry, B2B, yeah. Also runs citizen ballot initiatives for state public banks to raise revenue to finance infrastructure for water, broadband, transportation, temperature controls, and power grid. Attached to government jobs, guarantee offering these services free at the point of services. One and done. We can fix these problems, people. Work to get them done on the 2026 ballot. And just to let you guys know, in 2026, we actually have the governor's race here in Florida. So, I mean, if you guys can, if we can get started on that here in 2026, I think that would be great as well.
Get DeSantis out.
Oh, yeah. DeSantis, and do not run a Democrat, because Democrats do not do a damn thing for the rest of us. So thank you very much for that, Roger. All right, so let's just check on to see if we have any super chats in here. I know we have one super sticker. James Starr said, thank you very much for the super sticker. And I wanted to address this. Screaming Palm says Social Security does not run out of money. It is an appropriation. The trust fund is nothing more than accounting. I mean, yeah, for the most part, from what I know, is that technically the government can never truly run out of money. But my thing is that they still do not give nowhere near enough to the people who need it the most. And that's primarily because they want to appropriate more money towards, things like the military industrial complex instead. Instead of I would rather more money go to the disabled and the elderly. Even if I wasn't disabled, I would rather more money go to them than money going to Israel or Ukraine.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, thank you so very much for that. Now, let's get into the next subject. This is going to be interesting.
Wah, wah, wah.
Desperate Democrats. Let's get into this, because why is Kamala looking at Jill like that? Because I think they sent out I think that the Democratic Party sent out one of their minions. This is just my thoughts. Now, full disclosure, I am the co-press director for the Jill Stein 2024 campaign. So just to let you guys know, that is where I stand as far as Jill Stein is concerned. But there was an endorsement that was very unlikely, so unlikely that, to be honest with you, I actually do not believe it. Let's get into it. This is going to be interesting. This is out of Newsweek. Former KKK leader David Duke endorses Jill Stein, trashes Donald Trump. Interesting, right? Because former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke has endorsed Green Party nominee Jill Stein over former President Donald Trump, though Stein has rebuked the endorsement. Duke, an anti-Semitic white supremacist, said the candidate's stances on Israel has led him to make one of the most important statements I have ever made publicly. Now, this is what Duke says. He says, I endorse for president of the United States Green Party candidate Dr. Jill Stein. Although Stein and I obviously have our differences on important issues, she's the only candidate who speaks clearly against the war in the Middle East. Now, here's my question. Hang on. He is an anti-Semitic white supremacist. I want you guys to think about this for a second. Semitic white supremacist that endorsed a Jewish woman and her running mate is a black Muslim man. Take the poll that I put in there. Do you really, in your mind, believe that somebody like David Duke legitimately and organically is endorsing Dr. Jill Stein?
It's hilarious what people will fall for. It's hilarious what people will fall for because David Duke has done this time and time again. He's done it time and time again. Yeah, it's a way to. So it's obvious that David Duke is a fucking op. Like anyone with a brain, like figure this out, people. David Duke endorsed Charles Barron. You guys know who Charles Barron is? Charles Barron is a Black Panther who is pro-Palestinian, and he ran against Hakeem Jeffries. Now, little known note here, and Roger Meadows told me about this. I wasn't aware. Apparently, during that race, Charles Barron was actually beating Hakeem Jeffries in the polls. See, we got to go way back. He was beating Hakeem Jeffries. Then came the David Duke endorsement of Charles Barron. And after that, Hakeem Jeffries kind of took off. So all that support that was going towards Charles Barron before that endorsement, those people slided right over to Hakeem Jeffries. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how Hakeem Jeffries got his seat in Congress. Mm-hmm. That's how he got there. David Duke also endorsed Jeremy Corbyn. So it's apparent to me that what is being done is that David Duke is kind of sent out there to give these endorsements of these unlikely candidates that he would support because he is a white supremacist. He's a racist, to hinder their campaign. He did it to Charles Barron. He did it to Jeremy Corbyn. He did it to Jill Stein. He's done this time and time again before. And so the liberals, it was interesting, like all of a sudden the Democrat PR enclave just came out on Twitter and took this and said, oh, wow, vote for Jill Stein is voting for a white supremacist. And did it, all of them, one after another, same tweet over and over, just different accounts. So you guys, if you remember Bernie Sanders and correct the record with Hillary Clinton, it was a similar strategy where all these swarm of people just come in and like, oh, those Bernie bro people are racist and da-da-da. And the number of times that the Democratic Party has done this and people still fall for it and believe it is absolutely ridiculous, right? So it is obvious, number one, yes, David Duke is a white supremacist, but it's also pretty clear if people have been paying attention and following history that David Duke is an op. It's so obvious. I don't get it.
I wouldn't be surprised if David Duke actually got a check from the DNC.
Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised either. Like this is what they do. They try to target people that are going to be the most unlikely. They go to them, the people the most unlikely, and say, let's get them on board and yada, yada. And so you won't suspect anything. But this makes no sense. Even when it happened to Charles Barron, think people, Charles Barron is a black man who is a Black Panther who was pro-Palestinian. Why would David Duke endorse him unless he was an op?
Yeah. And they're trying to go. This is what the Democratic Party is trying to do. They're so nefarious and they're so sneaky that they're stupid. Anyways, so here's what they do. They go, well, anti-Zionism is equal to anti-Semitism. And then they go to a real anti-Semite to actually endorse a Jewish woman, which is complete and utter BS. Because the thing is, anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are not the same thing. Zionism is a political ideology. So therefore, they're not congruent. They do not mix. And so, and on top of it, if somebody like David Duke does not like black people, he damn sure doesn't like Arabs. And Arabs are Semites. So guess what? If he's anti-Semitic, that means he also hates Arabs as well.
Yep.
So why would he be so happy? Somebody like him would be happy that Arabs are being destroyed too.
He despises Jewish people too.
Yeah. So
That's
if he
why
despises
like,
Jewish people, he despises Arabs. Why
like
would he team up with Jill Stein? It doesn't make sense.
use your brain, people. Jesus Christ. Like it just, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's funny to me how people fall for it. And one of the people that was first to retweet it was Liz Smith. Remember Liz Smith?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Liz Smith is the woman, she's Democrat strategist. This is the same woman that attacked Andrew Cuomo's accusers, the women that were accusing Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. This is the woman who attacked those women. Anything to protect Andrew Cuomo because he was a part of the Democratic Party. So anything to protect Andrew Cuomo, thus trying to protect the Democratic Party. These people are ridiculous. This is why when they say this stuff like, oh, we got to protect women and what about women and da-da-da. They didn't care about those women when those women were accusing Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. And they didn't care because it was in the Democratic Party. It was in their party. They only tend to care when it's the opposite party. That's how you know they're all full of it. And so to me, it was funny to see people just fall for this. And I was just like, wow, you guys are really, really falling for the okie doke.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Let me share this as well. This is Jason Call, Jill Stein's campaign manager. He said, it should go without saying that we reject any endorsement or association with Duke. Call added that media outlets should be focused on the fact that Democrats are celebrating the endorsement of Dick Cheney, the worst war criminal in recent American history, who has the blood of 1 million Iraqis and thousands of Americans on his hands. Also, the fact that Democrats are choosing to smear Dr. Stein using airwaves that should be public, not bought and paid for, rather than engage in honest debate the American people deserve. So, of course, Newsweek is repeating the 42,000 Palestinian narrative when in reality it's closer to probably over 200,000. And they're not talking about that. So I'm not going to share the rest of this, but I do want to share what Dr. Jill Stein has actually said in regards to this. I think that's also important.
Yeah.
Because, you need to hear directly from the candidate in regards to things like this. Let me make sure I get it really quick. I had it, but here it is. And let me share the screen. I hate when that happens. Okay. All right. And here we go. So here's what Dr. Jill Stein says. She said, a racist troll has endorsed our campaign to draw attention to himself, and certain smear merchants are happy to platform this troll to attack us. Of course, I reject any endorsement from a white supremacist like David Duke, unlike Kamala Harris, who can't stop bragging about her endorsement from white supremacist mass murderer Dick Cheney.
There it is. And Dick Cheney is a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Cheney's another one. A lot of people may not be aware. I mean, obviously, I think most people know about the Iraq War, like his involvement in promoting that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was probably, I guess you would say, like out of all the vice presidents since like the 80s at least, Dick Cheney was probably one of the more powerful vice presidents because he was making more decisions than other vice presidents. That's just kind of how George Bush was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But Dick Cheney, for those who are not aware, he opposed freeing Nelson Mandela. He also opposed Head Start programs in this country, and he opposed Martin Luther King Day.
Mm-hmm.
That's who Kamala Harris is happy to have an endorsement from. Not to mention he shot his friend in the head.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nasty little bastard. I'm serious. Like he is just, I've read so much about him. If you go watch like previous interviews of Dick Cheney, like during the Iraq War, he is a nasty little person. And he didn't care about any of those children being killed or anything like that. Like he saw it as a necessary thing. Nasty person. Liz Cheney, we're going to add her to this list too, because as I see a lot of, or some Democrats being like, yay, she opposed Trump. Liz is great now. Oh, she's da-da-da. Don't get it twisted. Liz Cheney may have opposed what happened on January 6th and said, you know what, we can't have Trump because of that. But I don't see these Democrats talking about some of the way that Liz Cheney voted on legislation that affected members of the LGBTQ community, including her own sister.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. It's interesting to me when Democrats say, well, Trump wants to take us back. We're not going back. Liz Cheney wanted you to go back too.
Mm-hmm.
Liz Cheney voted against it, voted against the LGBTQ community. But that's who you guys are welcoming on board? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let me tell you something. I found a very... Sorry, go ahead.
You didn't see Trump vote against like LGBTQ rights, like that kind of stuff. But Liz Cheney actively voted against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me share with you guys something. I found a very flattering photo of Dick Cheney. I just want to share this with you guys. This is who endorsed Kamala Harris. This is Dick Cheney. So you guys know who he is.
Stop it, Jaybe.
I'm sorry, but I don't care. Dick Cheney looks like the Penguin. Dick Cheney looks like the Penguin from the Adam West Batman series. He can go. Dick Cheney.
Oh no.
You know what I'm saying? He does. I don't care what nobody says.
I can't take
the Penguin. That's it. But yeah, so the fact is that somebody like Kamala Harris that's literally bragging about that. I'm like, ma'am, you didn't eat with that. Like she thought she ate, but she thought she cooked, but the food is still raw.
I'm telling you that. Go ahead.
She thought she cooked, and the food is not just still raw; it's completely inedible.
I'm telling you, Jaybe, she trying to get some of those Republicans that don't want Donald Trump. I plan on having Republicans in my cabinet. This is why the Democrats look so stupid right now. You guys are yelling at Jill Stein and saying that she took money from Republicans or whatever. So did Kamala Harris took money from Republicans. Kamala Harris is actively working with Republicans. You guys look so stupid.
You know, it's funny. They're talking about, oh my God, Trump and Project 2025. Literally, Kamala Harris is literally having people who are Republicans who favor Project 2025 in her administration. She's in favor of having that in the administration. Aye. And the problem is, everybody's like, why would you vote for Jill Stein instead of Kamala Harris? I'm like, because she's just like Trump, man. If I do not want Trump, then why would I go for somebody who imitates his policies?
She keep trying to show you she a Republican. I mean, how much more does she have to show you?
When someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. That's what Martin Luther said.
And you know what's funny? Another thing I want to mention real quick, Jaybe, you know what's funny? Sure. as much as they continue to say, oh, well, Republicans, are going to try to restrict abortion all across the United States and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I hope you guys do know that some of these Republicans that may be endorsing Kamala Harris, they're endorsing her because they don't want Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that they support Kamala's, decisions about abortion. That doesn't mean they've changed their position on those things. So the reality is, and I'll talk about this a little bit later tonight, but the reality is when it comes to the Senate, which right now Republicans are leading the Senate, it's 50 Republican seats and there's 45, I believe, Democrat seats, and there's 5, just kind of in limbo right now, trying to see if those are going to go towards Republican or Democrat. For shits and giggles, let's give them all to the Democratic Party, right? So that would give you a tie. That would give you that 50-50. But I don't believe all 5 of them are going to go to the Democratic Party. So there's that. But the reality is, regardless if Kamala Harris wins or not, if you have a Republican Senate, those Republican politicians that endorse Kamala Harris are still going to be voting for those Republican senator candidates. That's what people don't understand, because they still want, I'm pretty sure Liz Cheney still is pro-life. So what is really happening here?
They're allowing themselves to get played. I also, let me see if I can find this tweet, because I made this tweet. And I don't know how it really I feel like it went over people's heads. Some people got it, but some people just didn't really get it. And I want to make sure that I make this as abundantly clear as possible. Let me see if I can find it, because I think I cooked a little bit. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a, I'm gonna give myself a little bit of credit for this one. I'm sorry, go ahead. What?
I said, let's go.
Yeah. Hang on, I have to get past the Dr. Shiva clapback, because that was a event. Found it. Okay. So those of you who are dating, right? I want you guys to think about it as somebody who's dating, especially, a lot of women out there. So here's what I said. I said, if you're willing to reward a presidential candidate for committing a genocide against other people by voting for them, I should put, what makes you think they won't do it to your people? Now, continuing on. It's like going out on a date with a guy and you find out he used to be his last girlfriend. Are you going to say that it's different with you? Or are you going to watch how he treats other women and steer clear of him? I want you to think about the genocide right now. If they're willing and allowing to pay for a genocide of other people, what makes you think that they will not allow the same thing to happen to you? Because I'm going to be real with you. Some of y'all, I'm not talking about all of y'all, but some of y'all got desensitized to the suffering of Black Americans. And now you see some people who are a little bit lighter than us that are getting massacred and exterminated. And you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening. It's like, guess what? They're going to keep going lighter and lighter. And the genocides will keep on happening. And guess what? It's going to eventually happen to you. This is why it is so important. This is why Black people, a lot of us, we have solidarity with the Palestinians, because we know what it's like to be genocided. The indigenous people of this land know what it's like to be genocided. And now they're being genocided. And guess what? It's a matter of time before they start coming to you. So this is why it's important to reject anybody that is okay with genocide at all. Anybody. Because you got to watch. You got to watch how somebody treats other people. Like, how many of you would stick with a friend if you guys went out to eat and your friend treated the server like crap, how many of you guys would stick with that friend? And yet you're still going to vote for somebody that's willing to pay for a genocide? That's not consistent at all.
They will come after poor white people too. And this is something I hope people understand, because it can be done in a different way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a war. It doesn't have to be like bombs dropping on you. They can kill you in other ways by poisoning your community.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm going to wrap up with this last point. They will use a Black woman to bring in fascism because she will be the Trojan horse that brings it in.
And then if you criticize her, this is the other thing you got to be prepared for too. Because if you criticize her for what she's doing, then you're going to be called racist or sexist. Now, they can't say that to me, but they can't tell Jaybe, oh, you're racist, but they could try to say to Jaybe, oh, you're being misogynist. You see what I mean? So this is basically going to be their way. And I'll talk about this a little bit later tonight, because I think that Kamala Harris, if she wins, and because she is a part of the incumbent administration, they have the advantage. And I'll get into this a little bit later tonight when I'm live. If she wins, this is going to be the establishment's way of using her to bring forth fascism in a way that I think a lot of people are not expecting. And I'm talking about the people that say, oh, Trump is fascist, but they won't say Kamala Harris is. I think that will be their way of doing it through her. And because people, again, a lot of the people that are like, no, we can't have Trump, he's fascist. I'm going to support Kamala, even though I don't know much about her or don't agree with her policies, really. I just don't want Trump. Most of those people, they're not going to see it coming. Watch.
Go ahead and like the stream. Sabby got the last word on that one. Thank you so very much. We're going to go into some of the chats to see if anybody has any super chats or any Rumble rants or any tips on Rockfin. But with that, we're going to be wrapping it up. So let me take a look into here. I think we're good on the Rockfin and the Rumble side. Let's go ahead and get into these chats to finish up for the day. We have Cool Blue coming in saying Trump will defeat Kamala on November 5th, 2024. Republicans will also win the trifecta. The Democrats are losing too much ground with their party coalition.
But Cool Blue, and Cool Blue's the one with the stats, by the way. Cool Blue always comes in and said, like what happened in previous elections and stuff like that. Yeah. The thing that I'm concerned about, and I'll talk about it a little bit more tonight, is the fact that based on what I'm seeing, it's looking almost too easy for Donald Trump to win. And I say that because she's losing all these different demographics that help the Democratic Party win. And it almost seems too easy for Donald Trump. And that's why I feel like she could win. Because remember when it seemed too easy for Jaybe, remember when it seemed a little too easy for Hillary Clinton? Remember when at this time, I think it was like October-ish when Hillary Clinton was polling, I think she was like at 52% and Donald Trump was like, she had like a 10 or 11 point lead on Donald Trump, like nationally. You remember that?
Yeah. Everybody kept saying, oh, Donald Trump's never going to be president. Everybody was talking about it. And people were just like, no, it's not going to happen. They thought it was a joke, really. And next thing you know, 4 years later. Yeah, that's crazy. Go ahead. But with that being said, let's go into the next one. Jasmine Harrell says liberals are desperate to believe this because they can't answer Dick Cheney endorsing their favorite leader. Yep, absolutely. So thank you very much. Hang on. Ooh. Genocide Joe denying the genocide in Gaza and Palestine doesn't help. Well, that's true. Notary says, thank you very much for the super sticker. And I wanted to go up here. And then Eric says, turns out joke's on us. Yep. What he says, I think it's a coin toss, but the edge is going towards Trump due to various dynamics. whoever this person says, Kamala on. All right, if you live in the future, more power to you. I hope you got a sports almanac. Anyway, so let's get out of here because we gotta go. Go, Johnny, go.
Oh man.
All right, everybody. Just so look, of course, everybody go ahead and tune in to Sabby in about 90 minutes. She will be live. Of course, I will be doing my show this Sunday, and just want to give a special happy birthday to my great nephew for your second birthday. I love you, and if you ever get to see this in the future, Uncle Jaybe loves you. So, of course. So with that being said, everybody, Saps, any last words?
No, just catch me later at 8 p.m. Eastern.
All right, everybody. You guys take care. Water your plants, water yourselves. Do all the things if you got them, and I love you. Leave the world better than you found it. Mwah. I will see y'all in the next one. Deuces, Bruces. Love you. Bye-bye.